Is Dom here?
Yes, he is.
Please bring him in the studio and let him gift his knowledge of the law to our listeners. There are some lines open, 727-579-1025, and the 800 lines are wide open, 800-771-1025. We've got divorce, we've got medical, weed questions, we've got a whole bunch of things coming in. And here comes our friend Dominick Fariello, Ask the Dom, who is back from a trip to Chicago. How you doing, buddy?
I'm exhausted.
You are?
I did 3 days in Chicago and 3 days in Michigan, and we flew from Grand Rapids back to Chicago, and they had a storm there, so we had a 7-hour delay in O'Hare, and then I didn't land back here until 2 a.m. this morning.
Oh, jeez.
So
I would have canceled.
no, that's not my name.
Well, the good thing about O'Hare is you probably had a lot of time to yourself because it's not very busy.
Yeah, that's not true. No, I figured I had all the way until about 7:30. As long as if I got here any later than 7:30, then I couldn't drive straight to you, and then I would have to call Spanish. But so I still had about 5 hours, give or take, to spare. And I stand a commitment that I have to your listeners, Mike. I don't think you when you sign me on, it's 110%. Man.
Yeah, I would have bailed for sure. Let's get right to him. Let's go to Mike. Mike, you're on Ask the Dom. What do you got, Mike?
Hey, good morning, Mike. Good morning, Dom.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, I had a question for you. Just here recently, I kind of went over my divorce and looked over and how really screwed I got. I didn't have a lawyer then, and she had a prepaid special from Florida Legal, and I'm wanting to change some things in regards to taxes, splitting with my kids, and some other different assorted items, and I didn't know if I could just make that amendment or petition myself, or you'd recommend getting counsel for that.
Well, you always can petition if you feel that there's something that's wrong or it's not in your favor. Now remember, if you went in without a lawyer, it's kind of buyer beware. So if you have an approval by the court, you've got a plan in place, and then all of a sudden, you realize you want a better deal. And judges aren't going to be happy to hear that because you had the ability to have legal counsel, and for one reason or another, you didn't have it. Now, the tax issue usually is alternating. So 1 year, the ex will claim the taxes. The next year, you will, and then that's it oscillates, goes back and forth. Is usually how that's done. I
bit the big one on that one. I let her have it to a certain amount of time so she finished school, air quotes, whenever that might be in 2080. So
you see, now these are some of the things that couples do during this divorce process that I never quite understood. So people call me all the time. And, of course, Jason Valkenburg's our family law guy. And we're going to give you Jason, and Jason's going to help you. But in the meantime, I'll answer the question. And I don't always understand. People call me and say, Don, this is what I want to do. And I'll tell them, look, even though I no longer practice family law, but I once did it, I go, I wouldn't do that. You're too nice of a guy.
Yeah, it's never going to work out like you hoped it would work out.
And I'll give you a visual here, but sometimes you need somebody, to shake you up a little bit, to say, listen, right now your emotions are flying. You want to do the right thing. There's a lot of great moms and dads out there that want to do right by their children, but if you look at it in the long run financially, you're getting screwed. So
my thing was, I was nice guys finished last, and I just wanted it over. And
that's the biggest one. I just want to get it done, and I want to get it done quick. All right, so let's undo the damage that you've done now that we've had the moment of clarity.
Invite her to go camping with you on the top of a mountain and ask her to look at the view.
Right near the cliff.
I think you know how it goes.
So the answer to your question is yes. Anything can be amended. Certain things have to be filed. There are certain things that you want to file within a certain time. It all depends on what you want to do. I am back in the office as soon as I leave Mike's show this morning. You can go to AskTheDom.com or call the office. I'll give you Jason's information. It's not a problem. We'll take care of it for you.
Good luck to you,
all right,
sir.
Great, Dom. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. I'm here to please people.
It's a beautiful view. No, get closer. Get closer.
Yeah.
What? Oh, sorry. That's the way.
What's funny is there's so many people that are dying doing that, taking selfies.
Mm-hmm. You could probably make it work with like a selfie.
Well, it's just crazy.
Are you actually suggesting murder now? Because so many people if died taking selfies, you can make it look like a selfie murder.
First of all, first disclaimer is I want to have this coffee first before I'm really held liable for anything I say. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just commenting on the fact that that seems to be very prevalent now,
Right.
that these folks are going to these very dangerous areas, taking these selfies, risking life and limb, and it turns out that more often than not, they ain't making it back.
What he's saying is it's easier to get her to the cliff. I got you. Jared, good morning. You're on with Ask the Dom. This should be good. What's up, Jared?
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, buddy?
My wife of 15 years started doing meth. At the end of our marriage, I decided to leave. She was living in the house that we were renting. I left 2 months before the lease was up. I paid for the rent. The rent was paid in full. The landlord knew what was going on. I left. I'm getting now certified letters from him saying I owe all this money for damages without when we moved in.
Hey, sir, your phone really sucks. We want to hear what you're saying, but you're breaking up. I don't know if you're moving. So you moved out. You paid the final 2 months rent to the rent owner or to your wife to give to the owner?
No, I paid it myself to the owner.
But he says now that there's damages after you guys have moved out.
Right, and what I'm wondering is, was my deposit that I gave him, the $1,000 deposit I gave to move in, does that cover the damages, or still the extra damages that my wife left?
Well, the problem that he has, and I know his phone connection is bad, is the way that his lease structured is outlines his security deposit. Some people have your first and last month's rent. Some have a separate amount that's a security deposit. And then what happens is upon the end of the term, the folks will go through, and they're usually supposed to itemize, all right, this carpet needs to be cleaned or this wall needs to be painted, etc., things like that. The problem I think that this gentleman has is, the missus, if she's on meth, God only knows what she did to this place in the 2 months that he vacated.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Torn the place apart.
Yeah.
But he's still responsible.
The house was bad, but it wasn't horrible. I mean, the walls were dirty. There was holes in the walls, but
to an owner, that's pretty devastating.
Well, yeah, so I don't know whatever the extent of your security deposit is, but the house has to be repaired. I mean, just because it's an unfortunate situation where the missus got on meth. However, you left early. You paid your part, but you still have a contractual obligation to keep the premises intact. And if you're joint and several on there,
what he's saying though is if he's got $1,000 deposit, can they just take it out of that?
Well, if that's what the deposit is for, but then he can request an itemization of what exactly they use for the deposit. Well, he just told us the walls are dirty and there's holes in them. I mean, that's drywall repair right there.
I'm sorry. My landlord was telling me it's another $2,500 more than.
Well, then you need to contest.
Original deposit.
All right. Now you can contest that matter if you want to avoid small claims. You need to say, well, what additionally is the damage that was done above and beyond the initial $1,000? What is $3,500 in repair that requires the additional $25? And the guy's going to send you a picture of the holes in the ceiling or the sink's missing or whatever the hell's going on there that your wife did in 60 days. You need to ask for that information to justify the reason why you got to pay additional $25. But maybe there's a great reason for it.
Okay. I was just checking because
that's how you do it.
That the deposit.
Don't assume. Don't assume.
No, and old Methy was making holes in the wall and getting them all dirty. She ruined that for you. But good luck to you, sir. Thank you.
In law school, they say an assumption is you make an ass out of you and an umption.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's go to Alex. Where's Alex?
Yes, how you doing?
Hi, Alex. What's up?
Hey. I have a medical marijuana card. I've had it for about 2 years here in Sarasota. I shop pretty frequently there and carry around stuff with me when I go to work. I'm wondering what's the legal ramifications of carrying product around with you?
Well, you have a card for it, so there shouldn't be any. It should be legal for you.
Yeah, I mean, unless
maybe
you got,
you were allowed to have it at home.
Well, I mean, unless you're carrying bricks of this thing in a suitcase or a satchel, that's obviously the amount that doesn't look like it's personal consumption. You're gonna run into a problem as to whether or not you're trafficking in the in the drug. So the question then becomes, well, then that's that makes sense. If you got a personal use amount quantity and you're using it under the medical marijuana card you've had for 2 years, you shouldn't be running into any problems. But let me also keep something in mind. If you smell like marijuana, if you're stopped in a vehicle for a traffic offense and there's an odor of marijuana coming from you or the vehicle, that's going to establish probable cause. If you're going for an investigation for potential, driving under the influence. If you're working someplace,
still count for the smell, even though they just did the farm bill with the hemp?
Does it still probable cause count for smell?
Does the smell still give them probable cause?
Yeah.
I just heard that smell and sight no longer does because hemp is legal now.
You could still be under the influence potentially. They don't know the distinction is going to be at the time at which they smell it to determine whether your normal faculties are impaired. So at this point, I'm seeing criminal report affidavit CRAs that says yes, that the odor of marijuana is enough to establish that of probable cause. Absolutely. Then the other problem that you have is if you're working someplace and you're smoking your marijuana, medically, I understand that. And God bless you, you get whatever your medical issue is, and I hope you feel better with that. But if you're on a job site and you're under the influence medically, does that impair the work that you're doing for the folks you're employed by? I don't know the type of work that you're doing, but if you're operating heavy machinery or if you're driving around,
pilot,
if you're a pilot, now you're going to be running into different problems. So you have to. It's a great concept to help people that are ill or injured or qualify, but you have to think it through. See, a lot of my clients, they only go halfway, and then the other half is where they get into legal trouble. Great people, they just don't think it all the way through, and that's what I'm here to make sure that happens.
All right, let's. Boy, we got a lot here.
They've missed me. I've been gone since the last Tuesday. My goodness.
Brian, you're on Ask the Dom. What do you got, Brian?
Hi. I just have kind of a weird one. I just found out that my checking account got garnished for a small claims case against me that I did not sign for the summons. I was on a day and an hour on which I was working, and I was not off. And neither was my wife home. Somebody else signed for it. Do I have a leg to stand on to request a rehearing about it?
Yes, in the sense that you didn't know about the summons. But here's the other problem that you have is after a summons to appear in court, or if you've been served papers, is usually what you're referring to for folks listening. There's going to be a lot of other documents that you receive. So the question is, did you ever receive these documents? The complaint would have come with the summons, but did you ever get a notice of hearing to be at court at a certain time or something from the clerk of the court?
No, I did not. They had a investigative team that supposedly got a signed summons from somebody who wasn't me. That's it.
Well, that's a great defense. I mean, that's a great affirmative defense. They served the wrong guy. And then, you went through the whole process, and they probably got a default judgment. And then now off the default judgment, they garnish your wages. You're like, well, wait a minute. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Yes, we got some lawyers that can handle that if it's a small claims. Small claims is $5,000 or less. County courts, $5,000 to $15,000. And then anything above $15,000 is going to be circuit court. So depending on your level, we can help you with that if that's a circumstance. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's small claims, and I tried calling Singh up, but he's on vacation as well.
Yeah, so. Dave does debit, credit, and collections work, which he can help you. There's another David that does contracts issues, but this would actually be more towards Mr. Singha because this is a garnishment issue. But he is trying to work his way around a hurricane in the Pacific to get to Hawaii. So if you bear with us, as soon as he and his wife get back from that trip safely, we'll make sure that we get you folks together, okay?
Okay, should I send a letter to the judge about this first?
When is the well, no, I wouldn't send anything to a judge without legal counsel. I wouldn't do. What county is this in?
Manatee County, and they already have the garnishment on my checking account.
All right.
By all means, open all your doors while you're on the air with us.
Yeah.
Okay. Go call the office after the show.
Email me.
Yeah, askthedom.com.
Don't be sending letters to judges without a lawyer.
Let's just make everything ding, and maybe you should go through a drive-through while we're talking.
Well, that's how you know they're real people. That's
dumb people.
That's that's how you know.
Tony, you're on with Ask the Dom. What do you got, Tony?
Hey, Dom. My partner and I, we got a air conditioning business, and we got involved into a car accident about 2 weeks ago. What happened was we had a car in front of us, and the guy decided to make a hard stop right at the yellow light. I mean, all of a sudden, and we had a car behind us. So we had not much time, so we made a hard left trying to avoid the car in front of us. The car behind us hit us, and the stage trooper put us at fault. So he gave us a ticket.
What did he give you a ticket for? Following too closely?
No change in lane.
Oh, okay. So you veered to the left. All right.
Yeah.
Did he give a ticket to the folks behind you?
No.
Well, if you change, were they already in that lane? They weren't directly behind you. You cut them off.
No, they were behind us.
Well, if they were behind you, then it seemed that they would have changed lanes as well in order to hit you from behind. No. So they should have gotten the same 316 traffic violation.
Well, we never made it to the left lane. We were right between the lanes, so he hit us right at the right tip.
Well, that's not an effective lane change. Effective lane change, the intent is you wanted to change lanes. It looks like you were trying to avoid an accident or an impact. So,
exactly.
Well, that's where's part of your defense there in traffic court. What county is this in?
It's in Pasco. It's Holiday.
It's a Pasco County? Okay, yeah. We have attorneys that handle that for you in Pasco. If you contact the office, hire one of our guys, and let's get up there and argue this case for you. It's going to be in front of a county court judge, though, in Pasco.
We got a lawyer named Keith out of Tampa. He seems to be pretty good, so we got a court hearing in September.
Well, what the hell are you calling me for?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to get a double.
You want to get
from you?
Well, all I told you is you could contest it, and then this lawyer Keith is his last name start with W?
Yes.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. I know
okay.
Keith. I know Keith. He's great. Tell him Dominic says hello. And you've got a great traffic lawyer.
And a great second opinion.
Yeah. I mean, all I got tell us guys, you could contest the ticket based on that. You go get a lawyer, go do it. He did that already.
Unbelievable.
But I know who his lawyer is. His lawyer's a great guy.
All right. Well, he's in good hands. Julian, you're on Ask Dom. What do you got, Julian?
Good morning, guys, and thank you for taking my call. Dom, I want to thank you for helping me with Bob Winter. I'm working on him right now on a different case, but
okay,
I'll be short. I was run over by a truck, heavy rain, nothing seen in front of me. Road flooded. Flashes in my car, ended up in a ditch a couple of times, and I had my kid with me, 4-year-old. His name is Dominick too. Now my car is in the shop, trying to get fixed. The whole front end is damaged, plus my deductible. But now, after a couple of days, my back is starting to kill me, and it's kind of locked but not locked, and I got some pain in the lower back muscle-wise.
Okay.
And I don't know how to handle this case. And it's Sarasota County.
All right. Well, what happens in the state of Florida is you got 14 days under the PIP statute, your personal injury protection coverage with your own auto insurance. A lot of people say, why do I have to use my own auto insurance and if it's not my not my fault in an accident? So Florida no fault law. So if you're ever involved in an auto accident, PIP stays with the person. You use your own insurance company, and you have your full benefits if you file within 14 days. Now, a lot of people say, well, what happens if I'm not feeling the injuries or pain until after 14 days? Well, that's fine. You can still treat. It just, the different levels of PIP coverage diminish if you're outside of the 14-day protocol. So what can happen is, if you want, I can help you find a clinic in Sarasota County. If you desire to hire the services of the firm, I am a personal injury attorney. It's funny, the bulk of what I do, Mike, is auto accident law, motorcycles and automobile accidents, trucking accidents. Although a lot of people, when they hear me on the show, they hear a lot more criminal stuff and family stuff. There's some injury stuff as well. But really, my entire 17-year career, the bulk of what I do is personal injury. But we can certainly help him out.
Well, if you need help, sir, 813-251-5550 or askthedom.com. I got a full board of phone calls, and I got time to take a couple more. So let's get to as many as we can. Michael, go ahead. You're on Ask the Dom.
Hi. So I adopted my stepson a few months ago, and I recently got some paperwork saying that we have to appear in court because the biological donor isn't paying child support, but he's not supposed to be. We thought he was that he didn't have to pay anymore, and my attorney told me that he wouldn't have to. But now he's getting dragged into this. He's pissed off. My wife doesn't want to.
How's he getting dragged into it? If you're not filing it and the missus isn't filing it, who's filing it to bring him into court?
The paperwork, it looks like it's the state of Florida doing it on behalf of my wife, but she can't figure out how to tell them no.
Oh, that's interesting.
What about okay. So there might be a revenue issue. What is now, do you folks have a family law attorney that assisted you with the adoption?
Yes.
All right, then you got to contact him or her, read them in on the situation and circumstances, and they're going to have to, obviously they'll go to court, but they're going to have to file the proper documents to see what they can do based on whatever that pleading is from the state of Florida. I can't advise you there because I haven't read that document. But you need to, if you got an attorney, they're going to have to walk you through this. Use the adoption folks because then they're going to know more likely than not what that document is from the state, and then go through it one step at a time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, buddy. Well, that's rare.
It's hard with questions like that that I got to read what these documents are because there might be something similar from the earlier caller, a garnishment of wages. Maybe this individual was behind on child support up until the point of adoption.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole host of reasons why. Maybe there was an issue that the mom had with this fellow before the new husband got involved in the adoption. You never know.
Gotcha. Let's go to Scott. I think I could take this one now. Yep. Hi, Scott. What do you got?
Hey, guys. Hey, listen, a couple of weeks ago I had a party, and I invited a couple of friends, and they're plus ones, and they said they were going to show up right until the night before, and then they didn't. My wife...
This guy's a joke. Tracy, you're on with Ask Dom. What do you got, Tracy?
Oh, hi. I was working for a healthcare company and was manager and noticed some healthcare fraud that was going on. I was there 90 days and had an excellent review. Well, when I brought some issues to the higher-up manager, all of a sudden, a week later, HR came in and let me go.
But did you actually tell anybody about what you came across?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so she qualifies potentially as a whistleblower, absolutely. So what you need now is a labor and employment law attorney, which we have.
Can I ask, what did they say was the reason they were letting you go?
I wasn't a good fit.
Too smart for the room.
Yeah, or she made observations that what they were doing was allegedly inappropriate to the extent that she believed it was.
Right.
So, yeah, what she would need then is a labor employment law attorney to determine whether or not their actions, were proper in the manner in which they conducted themselves. So yes, you might have an avenue here as a whistleblower. If there's no negative reviews, now there's some argument. So some employers are listening. So, well, Dom, how do you know? Well, she sounds like she's still in the probationary period in that first 90 days. So
No. I was there 6 months.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said 90. I thought it was a probationary period.
No, I was just saying that my 90-day review was...
Oh, that was the 90. Okay. You said 90-day review. I thought that meant you were there for 90 days. No, 6 months, half a year. You certainly passed what would be deemed a probationary period. But yeah, contact the office. We'll give you Attorney Scott Atwood. Again, our labor and employment law counsel.
Because she should be covered, right?
Well, depending on the facts and circumstances. And again, I only know from the brief conversation she told us this morning, but I knew what we'd need to, it requires some research and to see if she qualifies. It's a possibility. I don't want to say yes and then, well, Dom told me on Mike's show. It's a possibility.
Right.
We got to look into it. But since I don't routinely do labor law, that's why I send it over to Scott.
Well, call the office and they'll get you hooked up with Scott, honey. I would think, like Dom was saying, that you should be covered because you were doing the right thing. You were pointing out something that you found that was wrong. You shouldn't be penalized for it.
Yeah. Are you employed now, or are you still unemployed?
No, I am employed now.
Are you making more or less than you were before?
More.
So the problem is she doesn't have any damages. I'm not saying what happened was right.
She can't prove financial damages, but I mean that whole process of being let go and all that's a pain in the ass.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I was out of work for 2 months.
Well, then that would be the extent of what her claim. Well, I mean, she can make the claim to the
She cried and went to bed.
She could the desire of what her injury was by their potential wrongdoing or wrongful termination would be the term. But the fact that if I'm a defense attorney, I would say, well, wait a second, this lady, turned out to do even better when she left our company, and she's making even more money. But that still doesn't absolve a potential wrong. But that's why she's going to contact our folks.
All right, call the office, man, if you'd like to pursue that any further. I got time for one more. Dom, we'll go to Matt. Matt, you're on with Ask Dom. You're the last call of the day.
Hey, guys, real quick. So my boss was involved in a car accident, and he's like kind of an older guy and doesn't really know anything about how he could call your show. And I was telling him to call you guys. But so long story short, he did cause the accident, and he has, I think, a 300 limit. And he's concerned now because the person is not accepting the settlement offer by the insurance company, which would have been right at the limit.
Right.
And she's suing, I think, for more money. And so what is he open to? Like, could they come after his own personal assets? Or what would happen if they're going to sue for over his limit of his insurance?
Well, the insurance company is going to provide him a defense attorney. That's what you purchase when you pay your auto insurance premiums. If you are sued, then they're going to provide you counsel. Now, that counsel is going to protect you, and the insurance company is going to cover you up until your policy limit. So, for example, if they don't settle at mediation, if there is a jury trial, and let's say a jury comes back with $500,000. So his now personal exposure is $400,000, above and beyond the $100,000 coverage. So he may want to acquire personal civil litigation defense attorney to cover him for what's called excess exposure. Now, if the insurance company doesn't tender the policy upon the demand of the injured party's attorney, and they should have, then there may be what's called a potential bad faith issue by the insurance company, which means then your boss would actually be a witness in a bad faith claim by the claimant who initially sued him to start. So that's now that's a completely separate track if this happens after a jury verdict that's in excess of the policy limit. So the short answer that you need to relay to your boss is he needs to consult with an attorney in addition to the one provided by his insurance company to protect him, his assets, his interest for an access judgment is what he needs to protect himself from. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. That's I think one question he had, because he does have the insurance attorneys already talking to him.
Yeah.
What about, is it too late for him to buy like a personal umbrella?
Well, yes, because what's going to happen is the insurance that he had at the time is going to rule. So if you want to, if you're going to get an insurance company that's going to cover him now, if he discloses that he's got a pending claim, they may insure him, but that's going to be at one hell of a premium. He has to disclose that. Now, I don't know if he's insurable at this point in time, because usually it's what insurance coverage you had at the time is what's in play. It's very rare that you can get additional coverage. But, when I have lawyers' malpractice insurance renewals, if I have to tell them, hey, look, I believe there's a potential claim, but I'm going to renew my policy. If a claim comes in the future and they were advised of that, then they're going to cover that claim. I might pay a higher premium. So I'm not saying that he's dead in the water, but he's going to have to, vet that through insurance coverage, disclose the accident and the claim, and if they afford him coverage that's retroactive or supplemental to any claims or judgments that happen in the future, he could potentially be covered. But that's a completely different process as well. This caller had like 3 or 4 legal issues. It's a pretty good call.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry for all that. Now my dog.
No, I'm only halfway through my coffee. I'm like, I got to get to the bottom before this call ends. This guy's got some good questions. Hi. Hi. Look at the kids in the car. Hi.
Good job. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the call. If you didn't get through today, you can call the office, 813-251-5550 at AskTheDom on the Twitter box or AskTheDom.com, or right here on this very station on Wednesday nights, where Dom is here to take your legal questions.
A lot of stressful people right now in the state and across the country. They are sitting for the bar. The bar exam is the last, predominantly the last Tuesday and Wednesday in the month of July and the month of February. So right now, if I'm not mistaken, is the state portion. A good friend of mine is taking the New York bar, and then tomorrow is the multi-state, which is a multiple choice section.
So that isn't like a, couple times a month thing? It's only once a year?
It's twice a year.
Twice a year?
Twice a year.
Wow.
The end of July and the end of February. And what usually that does is it's usually a few months after the graduating classes, either from the fall or the spring.
Gotcha.
So that and then what happens? Graduate, and a lot of folks still take like a bar prep course, and then boom, the end of July, and then you'll get the results in September for the July bar, and then in February usually get the results sometime April, early May.
No.
So there's a lot of stressful folks running around now, but I'm back from vacation.
My sister is going to law school, and I was talking to her mom about that last night, and I was like, I can't imagine having to study at this age, like having to take books into the other room and spend the afternoon studying for a test or writing a paper.
Sucks.
No, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
I enjoy going to class and talking about subjects and learning new stuff, but man, taking that stuff home and doing papers and reading chapters.
I would imagine if you just watch like Law and Order.
That's what I figured.
And Matlock and that type of stuff.
Dom will tell you, I'm pretty close to being a lawyer at this point.
You get most of it.
Well, we joke, but I mean, you guys have been listening to what I've been telling, folks for now over 10 years.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and talking, back and forth, and you hear different concepts. I mean, absolutely, some of this stuff. Well, didn't we take a law exam once, and Carmen actually did pretty good on the exam?
Carmen's great at taking tests.
I mean, you guys can, if you had the time, if you wanted to screw around a little bit, you can take a bar exam. You could do a prep. In prep classes, you could do a past bar exam.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna, because like if you pass the bar, you're a lawyer, but do you have to go to school to take the bar? Like
not necessarily.
Could I just go take the bar?
In
and if
some
I pass,
states,
I'm a lawyer?
in some states you can do an internship, and you just have to have an undergraduate degree, but do an internship with a law firm. I think Vermont comes to mind. California, I think, does that. There's a handful of states that you don't.
Carmen brought up a good legal question this morning. If somebody is on the racetrack, dirt racing, and,
the Tony Stewart.
And turns out they've been drinking. What does that count as far as
could they get a DUI or?
Yeah, I mean, if there is an investigation of it's a crime,
right?
So if you're engaged in a sporting event and you commit a crime, well, there could be an investigation. And if the law enforcement believes that a crime committed under a certain statute or ordinance or what have you, then that information is turned over to the state attorney's office. Just because you're engaged in a sporting event, like, for example, you made the reference of boxing, I think. When I
right. If there was boxing, they'd have an investigation. If there was nothing, they'd go, okay, it was normal boxing. But if they had plaster of Paris, then there's some intent to kill.
But didn't they investigated the Tony Stewart with that accident?
Right. But when I'm not,
he's attacking fans now.
Well, he punched a guy.
But say he.
That's a battery.
But say he was involved he was drinking alcohol and got into an accident on the racetrack. Would that be, Carmen want to know, would that be a DUI? And I said no, because it's a different license to, you're not using your driver's license to drive in a race car match around the circle. So I don't know if they would have, but it could be like a operating machinery under the influence of alcohol or something along those lines.
Well, again, every state has different laws, so depending on where the race would take. But I don't see why he couldn't be charged in the state of Florida for a DUI. I mean, if you're driving impaired, even though you're in a race car.
True, if you're on like a tractor or something, they pull you over drinking, you get a DUI.
You get DUI on a horse, Mike.
Yeah.
Or a bicycle. I mean, you get DUI in a variety of different things.
You get DUI in your driveway.
A lot of people make it home, yes, or on a lawnmower, golf cart. So, but
really, driveway should be home based.
Yes,
we made it.
You get into. But I think that if if the situation's egregious enough and there's proper evidence, and again, this would fall to the state attorney in the county in which the offense occurred. That would, solely be up to the state attorney in that county. I am not thinking of a statute or anything that limits the ability to charge somebody simply because they're in a sporting event. I mean,
if Tony Stewart punched me, I wouldn't want any money from him. I'd want to be able to punch him back.
Think about this. Remember Wayne's in The Last Boy Scout. Remember the opening scene? The football player was on the drugs and he had the gun on the field.
That's different.
But it's a crime. No, but it's a crime.
Yeah.
If you look at the context, if you just kind of put a
there have been hockey players arrested after fights in the history of hockey.
Well, because they went too far, or it's a battery or abuse, things like that. Yeah, it has to within the confines. But if you're intoxicated and you're driving a race car 200 plus miles an hour, which is inherently dangerous anyway.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you're under the influence, God forbid. That's a real serious offense. Not only is it a potential crime, then their race career may be over, or at least suspended by NASCAR.
Wow. Well, he's a madman, Dom.
Mm-hmm.
He's killing people. He's punching people.
Well, he that was investigated. So I mean, the guy. First of all, the guy shouldn't have got out of the car on a racetrack with other vehicles. I mean I understand what happened, but you got to look at the cause versus the effect. You stay in your car. Right? You got your beef. You meet the guy afterwards. You have a conversation, a winner's circle, or wherever the hell they meet.
Unless you think you're above the law. And you're just gonna hit the guy as you go by him.
But Michael, if you're that pissed off, are you getting out of your car and you're running after somebody?
Oh, that was stupid. But if I'm Tony Stewart and I already got an anger problem and a chip on my shoulder, and I'm like, there's that moron, and he's out of his car, he's wrong. Boom, give him a little nick, then realize you hit him too hard and you killed him. I wouldn't put it past him. And now the guy's out there just throwing punches willy-nilly at fans.
Well, that's a battery.
Yeah.
The other thing was investigated, I believe, and then that was concluded. Whatever it was, they decided from NASCAR. Obviously, he didn't get any criminal trouble, to my knowledge. But if you strike somebody, that guy can sue.
Tony Stewart is like George Zimmerman. Once the investigation's over, he's innocent, but we realize now that he's crazy. And now you look back at George Zimmerman and you go, it's probably his fault.
Well, not necessarily, because you got to understand something. What he went through, what anybody goes through being in the media, charged with something, whether they feel it's unfounded or not, that has a personal toll and effect on somebody.
Sure.
So to say that, well, because with Zimmerman, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, shortly after the decision came down, didn't he actually save somebody that was in an auto accident? Like pull somebody
allegedly.
Well, correct me. So, there's things that happen to folks, after all the hoopla of whatever the hell they're involved in. So, in this instance, if that is true, all right, maybe he saved somebody, and then there's another instance where there's another altercation, if you will. So it doesn't necessarily mean he was guilty of what the jury said he.
No, but you could tell his attitude is just a little bit off.
Well,
he seems a little more aggressive.
I'm not defending or promoting anybody. I'm just saying that it doesn't automatically mean just because something happens in the future doesn't validate the one way or another of something that occurred in the past.
All right, Tony, sir, we're watching you. We'll see what happens next.
Now, you remember, I always tell listeners, that one time is an accident. Twice is a coincidence. 3 establishes a pattern.
That's right.
So there you go.
All right, you're up to 2.
My goodness.
If you didn't get through, go to AskDom.com or call the office today. We must take a break. It is the Mike Calta Show. It's 102.5 The Bone.
You're listening to the Mike Calta Show on 102.5 The Bone.